I am Vinnie Tortorich. Folks, your good intentions have been stolen, but don't worry. I'm here to help you get them back. You may be soft and succulent at the beginning of this process, but hang in there. Before long, you will be lean and mean, guaranteed. Yeah, the Commodores. Chris, that song was around long before you were around. Folks, I'm talking about the wonderful Mr. Chris Shaffer. Yeah. Yeah. Do you even remember that song, Chris?
I don't know that. I mean, I know some stuff from the Commodores, but I don't know that I know that one.
And that was one of their big hits. Yeah. Big giant hit for those guys. I'm thinking about sailing on down the line because I will be traveling tomorrow by car and, going off to Louisiana for one particular reason. Well, two reasons. One, to go visit my folks. My dad's birthday is coming up. It was Mother's Day last weekend. So kind of a catch-all trip. But the real reason, we all know the real reason, so I can go get some boiled crawfish because right now is the crux of the crawfish season. So I need to get down there and get my crawfish. And people go, wait a minute, is that NSNG? Nothing is more NSNG than eating little tiny lobsters over and over and over again.
Would anybody say that about shrimp?
No. But you see, with crawfish, here's the deal. It's kind of like a crab boil, right? They'll put potatoes in there. They'll boil onions in there. People throw corn in there to boil with that Zatarain seasoning that they put down there. It's our version of Old Bay, crab boil. We use something called Zatarains. And there's so much, look, the Cajuns are the only people in the world that could figure out a way to take something that's truly carnivore and add so much grain and sugar to it that if you and that's what people do. They pick out on the corn, those potatoes are delectable. And of course, those crawfish are nice and hot and spicy. And what better way to cool it off than with a beer? So the whole experience can be very high in carbohydrates, or it could be as low in carbohydrates as you wanted to. Just fill up on meat, right? Which is, of course, what I'm going to do. But, I take long trips in my car. It's one of my favorite things to do. And people, the first thing people say to me, I used to drive from California back to Louisiana. I probably did it over the years. Oh, I don't know, let's say 25 times, right? I've probably done that trip that many times. So much so that I know exactly where my car is going to need gas throughout the desert, right? It's a 2,000-mile trip. You stop at the same places. You see the same faces, right? So, yeah. And sometimes I would do it in a diesel pickup truck that would go a lot further because, it had a 38-gallon tank and it was diesel and they just kind of go forever. Other times I did it in at least two of my Corvettes, right? And believe it or not, Corvettes will sip gas on the road. You put it in 6th or 7th gear, whichever the highest gear is. You cut off 4 of the pistons and it's running like a Prius, 30-something miles to the gallon. So there are ways to do it. And people go, all the gas money and you can fly there in 2 hours. Why would you do it? Because it's the biggest mental massage you will ever have. Driving can be the most relaxing thing. Getting on the road, seeing this beautiful country could be one of the greatest things you've ever done. Then the second question comes. What do you eat? My food is already set, Chris. This morning while I was frying up a bunch of eggs, I boiled up 6 more eggs. So when I get up in the morning, bright and early, I'm going to have 2 of those 6 and take the other 4 with me. I probably won't eat all 4, but at least I have enough to get me. It's a 15-hour trip. I'm taking my iced coffee with me, right? It's a concentrate. Whenever I want coffee, I could just pour a little bit of the concentrate into the cup, add some soda water or just, flat water and have an iced coffee. Boom. I keep the little Playmate ice chest on the seat next to me. People go, what do you listen to? Well, I don't listen to anything. Chris listens to me. Because I
I
will
was gonna
call.
say I'm gonna need to take a nap tonight to prepare for a 15-hour conversation tomorrow.
Yeah, you
Well,
get
like
rid of,
13. It's like 13 and a half because there's a couple places like through Tennessee where you drop out on occasion.
well, as you know, the reason that is not a full 15 hours is because I also stack up the consults, right? So I have a few consults tomorrow. So you're saved by the consults. Otherwise, I'm figuring out how to make things better. How look, it was long rides that Chris and I decided that the company something was wrong, something was going awry with some of the employees, and we knew that things weren't being run right, and we had to figure it out. And all of that, right, Chris? You want to speak to that? A lot of that happened on long trips.
Yeah, Thanksgiving, I think was the first big one a couple years ago. I decided I wasn't going anywhere that year, and you said, I think I'm going to drive down and see my parents. And we spent most of that week on the phone on
Yeah,
that trip. And Vinny, people say, oh, you can be on an airplane and get there in 2 hours. You can drive it in 15 hours, right? But from where you are, you'd be what, flying into Baton Rouge
I would
or
fly
into
to
New
New
Orleans?
Orleans. Yeah, but here's the deal. To get you could get a direct flight, but if you're going to leave Charlottesville, you're going to take one of those small planes, the ones that they put the brand new pilots on, the ones that end up bouncing down runways and flipping over. That's the kind of plane they put you on. So that's never fun. And they might stop you in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's a milk run, right? And so I don't know. It's just, and then you go to New Orleans to try to get from here to Baton Rouge would cost so much money because you're going from small airport to small airport.
Yeah, I mean,
Right?
you're talking $300-400, even if you're flying into New Orleans,
Yeah,
right? I mean, it's still three, four
easily.
hundred bucks, and
Easily.
it's not a 2 hour flight. It's 5 hours plus TSA shenanigans, and at that point, you're 3/4 of the way to the 15-hour drive, right?
Yeah.
They don't lose your bag, like it's it's a different way to do it. And if you've done it a few times, I usually did it the other way, right? The Texas to Pennsylvania
Right.
24-hour trip. And my parents said the same thing. They're like, why don't you fly? Well, first of all, I live in Central Texas, so I have to drive 3 hours to an airport. You have
Right.
to get there 2 hours early. I hope they don't lose my bag. I have to deal with people. Like, it's a nice little. I'm not going to do it every week, but a few times a year, it's nice. You get out, you see the country. If you've never driven long distance at night, you're missing out.
Yeah.
Right? You're missing out on some of the most peaceful time you can have to yourself. And if you're terrified to be alone, that's a different conversation,
Yeah.
right? But if you have something to listen to or you have somebody to talk to, it's one of the nicest breaks that you can take because you're not sitting there looking at your phone, you're not jumping on Twitter, you're not looking at Facebook, you're not doing any of that kind of stuff that you would be doing normally. It's you and the road, right? Now, did your lovely wife get you a Motorman's Friend yet?
I don't know what that is. So I'm going to go with no. What is it?
No. So you are going to have to stop to use the restroom from time to time, I guess. That's the
Yeah. What I do, I have the old man problem, the enlarged prostate. And sorry, folks, reality. I don't even stop at because gas stations are just you're taking your life into your own hands, right? We've seen all the stuff. If you go on X or Meta or whatever, you'll see what goes on in convenience stores, right? I don't want to have to walk into a convenience store. Number one, you got to touch all the nasty ass door handles and everything. You got to wash your hands, do all the stuff. In the car, I just pull over on an exit, walk around to the passenger side, open both doors. I've just created a small stall for myself right there.
yeah.
Pee, and you're back on the road. The other thing is, once you pull off to go to a thing, you have to pull off, then you have to get to the station, then you have to stop the car, you have to go in, all the things, right? This is you're off of an exit, you pee, you're back on, boom. So that's my deal. I know a lot of people will bring the thing to pee in. I'm not going to do that, right? I'm going to just pull over and pee. Is that what the motorman thing is?
The motorman's friend. That was the old trucker trick, right? It's like the funnel with the tube. You can either hang it right out the door or put it into a little container on the floor and
Yeah.
just keep on trucking.
Yeah. Look, when I was in a body cast back when I was a kid, you know, that you had the urine thing, the hospital urine thing, and I would just have to lean to the side in my cast and just, you know, pee into that thing. That was, I think back to that moment. It's like, did I dream that? If there weren't photos and videos, not videos, but, 8 millimeter, you know, tape of me being in that condition, I would just pretend that that never happened. Right. I was in a cast from my nipples down to my toes.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. And I was like, I turned 13 like 2 days before. It's like I was just, boom, done. At any rate, um, yeah, I have my food. I have my eggs. I'm going to peel them. So when I eat 2 in the morning, I'm going to peel the other four, put them in a Ziploc bag, sprinkle some Maldon salt on top or some Redmond's, whichever. And I need to eat. I'm just going to reach into that bag, right?
You're not just going to open up an ultra salt and pour it on there?
No, I've done that in the past. Just like I've forgotten the
Shameless
salt.
plug.
Right. But here's the deal. I've forgotten my salt in the past to bring in the car with me. And I always have ultra salt in the car. So I'm driving with my knee, which is not very healthy, undoing an ultra salt just to dump it. Yeah. But yeah, that's another way to do it. Don't do that, folks. That's very dangerous. Very dangerous. Chris, I'm sure you got some stuff for me over there. Before we do that, I need to tell folks about titanium dioxide. We hear all these reports. I was listening to a report today that 5% of our brains are made up, I don't know, some number of plastics now. We have all this plastic in our blood and our system. We have so much crap in us from what they've been feeding us, right, over the years. All of the different dyes and you name it. We wonder why people have autism and this disease, that disease. People are dropping dead. I just had a cousin. My mom told me yesterday. He's like, "Oh, the guy's got a stroke. Had a stroke." These kind of things just didn't happen at young ages, right? But it happens. Titanium dioxide is another one of those things you don't want to have in your body because even in nanoparticles, it will cause colon cancer. This is a fact. Our vitamins, purevitaminclub.com, have no titanium dioxide. Most brands do. Most brands put sand in their vitamins. What do they call sand, Chris? Silica? What's it?
Silica or silica dioxide?
Yeah,
Or
it's sand.
something silicate, which is also the the thing you'll find that says "Do not eat this,"
Hmm.
that they use to soak up water.
Same
Yeah,
stuff. And the bottom line is they put it in there to fill up space, to make you think you're getting more than you're getting, to add weight to the product. Magnesium stearate. Now, what does this stuff do? It blocks the absorption of nutrients. So that your liver does not get the nutrients the way it should. That's why when you take their vitamins, you have fluorescent color P, because all of those vitamins are going out. They don't get the one thing you want to get absorbed is not being absorbed because of something they put in the vitamin. None of that happens at purevitaminclub.com. Zero. So go to purevitaminclub.com right now for all of your vitamin needs. Go check out everything we're doing. We have a new site coming where we have a lot of exciting things right on the horizon. By the time this podcast comes out, it might be up, right, Chris? The new PVC?
should be. I'm waiting on one email, and then it should be live.
Should we start talking about, we might as well talk about it for a minute. You talk about it while I have a coughing fit.
About the new site.
Yeah, and what we're
Is that
doing.
what you're-
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you guys haven't heard, instead of having a bunch of different places to get everything, it makes a lot more sense to have one place to go to get stuff, right? So rather than having you have a Pure Coffee Club account and subscription, and a Pure Vitamin Club subscription, and an NSNG food subscription, and having to figure out if you have an order that doesn't show up or you need to get a hold of us, having 3 different phone numbers and 3 different emails and 3 different things that can go wrong makes a heck of a lot more sense to have everything all in one place. So we spent the last few months combining everything so that you will be able to see all of your orders, all of the things that you have all in one place. There's one place to go for customer service, one place to go to get everything that you need. And depending on what you're ordering and when you're ordering it, maybe one subscription instead of 3 or 4 or 10 different ones, depending on what it is that you are doing. So looking at what is there so far, and Vinny, I know that you've seen it. We've played around with it. We've made some tweaks to it. It looks and feels a lot better. It will show you exactly where every order is at any given point in time. Was it shipped? Is it lost by USPS? Is it missing in action? Is it out for delivery today? Instead of just saying shipped and then having you go to somebody else's website to see exactly where it is, you'll be able to see that all from right inside your account.
Yeah, we're doing everything we can to fix the problems that the company had when it was being run by someone else, right? I've taken over. We're doing it right. It's taking a bit of time, but we're going to get there. And we're getting there one step at a time. So go check all of that out. Chris, what do you have for me?
So, Vinny, you just mentioned Mother's Day. I was in the States for Mother's Day. I flew up to see my mom. And as part of that experience, Good Morning America was on. And did you know that not all GLP-1 inhibitors, like your Wegovy's and your Zepbounds, are the same? And that one is better than everything else by a substantial margin? That's what I learned from Good Morning America.
All right, so Good Morning America, again, is pushing drugs. Let's just call them drug pushers. That's what they are, right? That's what all the networks are. That's why the networks don't matter anymore, right? They don't give proper news. Depending on which network you're watching, it will give you an opinion of the news, which is never what Dan Rather and Walter Cronkite were doing when I was a kid. They just gave you the news, right? I didn't know, I didn't have to watch the news and go, am I on a right-wing news station? Wait, am I on the left wing? When you see a story, the first thing you do nowadays is you look and see where it's coming from. Like I'll see a story, I'll see a chyron when I'm in a gym, and it'll say blah, 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 Trump. And I'll go, wait a minute. Let me see if this is the right or the left, because the right has a version of Trump and the left has a version of Trump, and they couldn't be more different. Now, with NBC, which the NBC has Good Morning America, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, all right.
That tells you how much I pay attention to American broadcasts.
All right.
Today's show is ABC, so Good Morning America, I think, is NBC.
All right, so it's one of the big 3.
Yeah.
And we're still calling them the big 3, but guess what? They're not the big. No one's watching this stuff anymore. And they're doing
Good Morning America is ABC.
ABC.
So it's Disney.
They're doing the bidding of these drug companies, right? That's the only money they can make anymore. Period. The only time I see any normal advertising is during football season. Now, back in the day, football season was Ford truck, Chevy truck, Ram, and then Ford truck, Chevy truck, Ram again. You would see Clydesdales running around. You would see, Modelo has been big recently. But what you would never see during a football game was fat people dancing and telling you how they got their A1Cs down below 8, which, by the way, means that you're perfectly sick, right? It's like, hey, I can not have to worry about losing weight. I can get my A1Cs down to 8. It's the little pill with the big story to tell. That's what's going on. And now you're telling me that ABC has a show where they're shilling for these drug companies to the point where they're telling you which ones are the best. Okay, well, let me go through this. You got your Wegovy, you got your Mounjaro, you got your Ozempic. Those are kind of the big three. Am I missing one?
Yeah. So this particular story was them breaking down a study from the New England Journal of Medicine that compared Wegovy to Zepbound.
Okay.
And apparently, Zepbound is the end all be all, Vinny, because in 72 weeks, people lost 20% of their body weight on average, which translates to 50.3 pounds.
And how many weeks?
To 72, I think the study was.
Okay. All right. So let's say I'm going to do a math here, Chris. Get ready. You got your computer there?
Yeah.
Let's say you weighed 300 pounds. 300. 20% of that would be 60.
Yep.
60 pounds. And we know for a fact that if you lose weight with one of these drugs, that 50% of that weight loss will be muscle loss, muscle wasting. So that's 30 pounds of muscle. So you lost 60 pounds in 72 weeks. Great. You also lost 30 pounds of valuable muscle. Is that something you want? Is that where you want to be? Let's say you lost weight the good old-fashioned way by cutting out sugars and grains. Let's say you lost that same 60 pounds, right? The most you will lose in muscle weight is around 20%. I'm going to do the math for you. That's about 12 pounds. Did I do that right, Chris? So if you lost that same 60 pounds doing it right, you would lose 12 pounds in 72 weeks. 20% of 60 is 12, right?
Yes. 12
Okay.
times 5 is 60. So yes, that's that's how math works.
So with one, you lose 30. With the other one, you get to hang on to about 18 pounds of that muscle. Very valuable. You have a net gain of 18 pounds, right, with the muscle. But who's counting, right? They're just telling you this is the quickest way to lose weight. And by the way, I don't care about muscle, Vinnie, I'm losing weight. Your heart's a muscle. And can I drop my mic? Would it be hard if I dropped this whole mic on the floor? That was a mic drop moment.
You have a pen. Drop your pen, and that way you don't break your mic.
This pen is kind of expensive. Hang on. I'm going to drop this pen. I don't want to drop a pen that's got a nib on it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You drop a fountain.
That probably costs almost as much as your mic.
It probably cost half of my house. I bought this pen after I climbed Mont Blanc. This was my Mont Blanc. I always, whenever I do something to commemorate it. Chris, talk for a minute so that I can cough again.
So here's the thing with this, Vinny, and you were talking about some of the studies quote up to 60% of the weight is muscle mass. But even if we use the low end of that, and we look at the actual studies over that same time period, which are 60 to 72 weeks, 10% muscle mass in that time period is equivalent to 20 years of sarcopenia.
Yeah.
Does that sound like a smart life choice?
No, it doesn't. And everyone's saying to me, what's wrong with taking these drugs? Hell, I've had experts like, and by the way, none of these people have a horse in the race, right? I've had people like Ben Bigman on the show talk about it. I've had, Kate Shanahan talk about it. Dr. Teichos talks about it. You name it. These people don't care. They don't have a horse in the race. If a drug can do something miraculous and really help you, They would let you know. And here's the other proof in the pudding. The number of people who did one of these GLP-1s and then decided that it was a bad idea, right? If it's working so well, why do so many people stop? They're sick all the time. They want to throw up all the time. These are the stories I hear, Chris. They're always nauseous. They're always burping something that smells like roadkill because these GLP-1s will slow the food down so much in their system. I've been saying from day one, we're going down a bad road. No one wants to hear it, but we're going down a bad road with these GLP-1s. Sorry, it's a fact.
So we're talking a decent amount of weight loss, but a boatload of side effects.
Right.
Right. So if we use their numbers, and I'm going to round these, right? They said 50.3 and 20%. 50 times 5 is 250, right? So that would mean the average person in the study started around 250 pounds.
Okay.
If you have that much weight to lose and you're doing the right things anyway, there's a good chance you lose a similar amount of weight in that same amount of time. You're talking 72 weeks, right? That's not that much better than just eating the right stuff in the right amounts. Like, it's not unrealistic. Maybe you lose it a little bit faster, but you don't have to do that. And I think somebody who, and again, we have to take their word for it, Vinny, has had an astounding weight loss journey in the last few years. Without that, is our buddy we mentioned a few weeks ago, Jelly Roll.
Right.
And he lost, I think it was 140 pounds in that same time frame. Now, granted, he had a little bit more to lose, but that was all done through diet and lifestyle, at least according to what has been said about it publicly. Right? So he's able to do that the right way with substantially more weight to lose. Why would you, outside of not knowing any better, is there any reason you can think of for somebody to lean on something like a GLP-1 agonist?
No.
Other than frustration, right? And I know that's something that's come up, right? You hit a plateau, you've been there for a little while, and you haven't quite figured out that either you're not eating enough or you're eating too much to continue the weight loss.
All right. So,
Right.
all right, let me, I see where you're heading with this. So 72 weeks. Let's just play with that again for a minute. That's a year and a half, right? 18, it would be about
Roughly.
18, weeks, months. That would be a year and a half. Okay. I'm sorry, but if you weigh 250 pounds and you lose, all right, so let's say you're 250. So I'm going to start with 250. I'm going to put in my little calculator here. 250. Would you say the actual number was 258?
Well, so it was 50.3 pounds, and they were saying it was just over 20% of their body weight.
So
20.2.
All right. So 250 pounds was the average weight of these people?
Yeah.
Okay. If you do a low carb diet, right? Let's say the first 2 weeks, you lose, let's call it 12 pounds, right? A lot of water weight and whatever. So we're going to take 12 pounds away. So now we're down to 238. Okay. And let's say you lose 4 pounds a month on average. So let's take 4 from 17. All right. So four. All right. So what's 4 times 17, Chris?
68.
Okay. So 68. So, I mean, you're down to 170 pounds in my book, right? And that's extreme. And that's it. I tell people, they go, well, I'm not losing weight fast enough. I lost 12 pounds right away. Yeah, you lost water weight. But over 72 weeks, you can lose. I tell people, if you're losing about a pound a week, that's where you should be. At the most, 4 pounds a month. Usually, if I'm being honest, people lose 2.5 to 3 pounds a month. So let's do it at 3 pounds. So 3 times 76. What does that come to? Oh, wait, I didn't do that right. So
It's 3 times 17.
yeah, 3 times 17.
All the math people are yelling at me here. So 3 times 20 would be 60 minus 9, so 51.
So 51 plus, we said 12 pounds, so 62 pounds. You're still doing better with no drugs, with no side effects, if you just did it my way, right? And I get it. My way is, people go, oh, yeah, but, I'm not even hungry when yeah, because you're nauseous. These drugs make people feel like shit. That's why so many people go off of them. They get tired of feeling tired and wanting to throw up all the time. Right? Is that how you want to go through life for any period?
I would make the same argument with low carb, but not because I'm nauseous. Right? So if I eat well, I'm never hungry, if that makes sense. So it's really easy with low carb to undereat.
Right.
And it's something we've seen because you're just not hungry because you don't have the blood sugar crash. You don't have all of the things that come along with it. And so you do have to watch your food intake, but not because you won't eat it. If you have a big ribeye in front of you, you will eat it and you're not going to not enjoy it like you would with Wegovy or Zepbound or any of these things, right? You don't have to force yourself to eat. You just have to remind yourself to eat. There's a big difference, right? And I think that is something we've seen a good bit in the VIP group is people will say, hey, I'm stuck on the last few pounds. I'm just not hungry anymore. And it's like, all right, what are you eating? Oh, well, you're under eating by 400 calories a day or 500 calories a day. Like, can you squeeze some eggs in the morning?
Yeah.
Your body's holding on to everything right now because it thinks it's hungry, even though you aren't hungry because you're satiated or sated.
Sated. So, Chris, we're getting ready to do VIP right after this, right? We're going right from this podcast to VIP. And we have a guy in that group that's been perplexing us for not days, not weeks, months, probably about a year now, right? And you and I can't wait to talk to him. Why? Tonight's going to be the first night he's not on VIP.
He texted me and he said, I have a late meeting. I'm going to try to be there. But he finally answered the questions. And
right.
Vinnie, he said the numbers he gave us are 100% accurate.
Okay. If those numbers are accurate, he's under eating so much that it could be the reason he's not losing weight. I've seen that happen where your body will just shut down and then whatever you eat, whatever fat he's eating with his steak and everything else, his body's just storing it. That happens. It's a phenomenon that happens. I've seen it.
And when you're eating low carb, it's easier. And that I think is how people get into the intermittent fasting thing, right? Because they're like, well, I'm not hungry. For example, I woke up at 3:45 this morning to get on an airplane.
Yeah.
I was in airports all day. It is what, 5:45 Eastern as we're recording this?
Right.
I haven't eaten today. I'm still not hungry, right? Would I eat a ribeye if you put it in front of me? Yes. Am I famished? No, because I'm fat adapted and I have enough that my body's like, we'll deal with it.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm going to eat between now and the VIP call. So it's really not that big of a deal, right? Now, am I going to eat substantially more for dinner tonight than I would normally? Yeah, because I didn't have breakfast or lunch, but I also didn't want to eat BurgerFi or McDonald's or something stupid in an airport
Right.
just to shove calories in my face. Because if I did, then I'd feel like crap right now, as opposed to feeling pretty darn good with a little bit of hunger, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I remember back when I was living on the carb train, which I did throughout my whole athletic career, right? until the end where I switched over and decided I could do it with fat. Um, I would wake up in the morning. There wasn't a morning I didn't wake up where I wasn't ravenous, right? And it's like, yeah, I got to eat these carbs because, I'm going to ride a bike for a gazillion miles. I would wake up and just, like I couldn't wait to have breakfast. Now I got to talk myself into breakfast, right? And it's been like that for me for about, I don't know, 20 years now, pretty close to it,
Yeah.
right?
I noticed that even just a single day. If I put a little bit of life into living, the next morning I wake up and do that. And that happened when I was home this trip. I had our family makes a crab dip occasionally that has some great blue crab, cheese, Old Bay, because we're not Zatarain folks, right? We're Old Bay people because we're Northerners.
Not where you live.
Um, and of course, along with that, there's vegetables, but there was also some soft pretzel and some of that kind of stuff that my mom wanted to share with everybody. So I had a couple bites of soft pretzel. And I woke up the next morning starving,
Yeah.
right? That never happens to me. I'm never hungry in the morning. Do I still eat some eggs? Yeah.
Yeah.
But I immediately went and ate breakfast, which is not a thing that I do on a regular basis first thing in the morning. And it was just from a few bites of pretzel. Nothing completely off the wall, enough that I was well over what I normally eat for carbohydrates. And that gave me that craving the next morning. As soon as I got back on the train, had a couple eggs, stayed low carb the rest of that day, I was fine. But you
Yeah.
immediately go into that.
Well, Chris, the difference between you and most people is if you get someone that's a real carb addict, once they go off that train, it could take weeks, if not months, and sometimes years. Right? That's why I'm always trying to teach people, hey, if you do that, if you go for that soft pretzel or that cheesecake or you name it, right? Red velvet cake or ice cream or whatever you did, you can't look at it as, oh, I've screwed up. I might as well just keep this going through the weekend. Well, it's Monday. I'll start tomorrow. You have to get right back on right away. Don't feel guilty about what you did. Enjoy it, right? That's what it was. It was a treat. That's why you did it. But once you've done it, you've done it. That's it. Move on, right? And
Right.
I think that's, and that's what we talk a lot in the VIP group. People are like, they need to be talked off of a ledge a lot of times. And that's what we deal with.
Yeah, and I think what's the Tony Robbins phrase? Repetition is the mother of skill. Repetition is the mother of skill. Repetition is the mother of skill. Right? I've been doing this 13 years at this point, almost 14 years at this point, and I know that I can go home. Let's say Christmas, because Christmas is the biggest food holiday in my family. Right?
Yeah.
There's going to be something at every house, and if
Right.
I get on that train, I'm going to be on that train the whole time that I'm there. Or I can pick and choose one or two things while I'm there and know that that is an active choice as opposed to, okay, we're going to my aunt's house now. I have to eat this thing that she made.
Right.
No, they will offer it to you
Oh, Chris is
and you
locked.
just say no,
There it is.
right? Like it's really not that hard once you've done it.
Chris, tell the audience, because we don't talk about you a whole lot. How much weight have you lost? And how tall? And give your whole stats of where you were and where you are now. Did you miss all
You
of
cut
that?
out.
Okay. I was saying, give the audience an idea of how much weight you lost. Start with your height and how much you used to weigh and how much you weigh now.
Yeah, I'm 5'11". I'm not going to say 5'11" and change, but depending on who measures me, it's somewhere between 5'11" and 6 feet. I say 5'11". I was around 250, and I just weighed myself when I got back. I am 169 right now.
It's amazing, man. You've lost literally a small person. 90-pound woman is what you've
Yeah.
lost, right? And you've kept it off for a long time. And it was pretty simple, right? I mean, And look, we make this sound simple here, but it's as simple as, do you want to do this? Here's how you do it. Right. And if you don't know how to do it, go get my PDF. It's that simple. Go drop $10 on this PDF. Go to VinnieTortorich.com, and it's called the NSNG ebook or something like that. It's a cheat sheet to losing weight. That's all it is. Nothing more, nothing less. It's a cheat sheet for losing weight. Period.
I think the biggest thing for most people is getting started, and that's what the PDF is there for, right? People say, well, what do I eat? And the answer is all of the food that actually tastes really good.
Yeah.
And none of the things that make you feel like crap, right?
Exactly.
A donut kind of tastes good until you realize it makes you feel like crap.
No, a donut doesn't kind of taste good, Chris. Let's not lie. Most donuts are like blowjobs. Even a bad one is good.
I will tell you that is something I disagree with, only because
All
I've
right.
had a handful of donuts recently that taste like old fry oil. And when I say recently, I mean over the
Yeah,
last
you know what I'm
3
talking
years.
about. Yeah, you're right.
A decent donut is
Yeah.
worth having.
Yeah. Okay.
But the after effects of that and how it makes you feel is not worth that. When you can have something like ribeye, which tastes delicious and doesn't make you feel like crap afterwards, right? And I think the tipping point for a lot of people, Vinny, is the same tipping point that I had. When you realize how it makes you feel,
Mm-hmm.
that's when you can start to make that change. When you live on that carb cycle, you're eating pizza, you're eating donuts, you're doing all of those things all the time, you don't realize what it does to you. I didn't realize that every time I looked at a high carb food, it spiked my blood pressure, right? I felt terrible after eating that pretzel because
Right.
my blood pressure went through the roof. And it happens every time I eat
Really?
anything with wheat in it. And I happen to have a wheat allergy. I happen to be very gluten sensitive, right? They claim that's part of the reason why they had to take my gallbladder out, all of that kind of fun stuff. But even when it's in something, I know when flour was used, like in a roux, because
Yeah.
my blood pressure goes through the roof. And I can
Really?
literally feel it in my heartbeat, in my neck. I can feel it go up.
Wow.
And now that I know that, I just assumed that that was how everybody felt after they ate all the time. And then I stopped feeling that way because I stopped eating that stuff. And I still have it on occasion. And I know that I'm going to suffer the consequences afterwards. So it has to be worth it.
Yeah. And that's the problem with all of it. You and I have gotten to the point where we don't want to suffer the consequences. But some people just look at it as a way of life. It's like, hey, and that's what addiction is, man. Right? We see other addicts on the street, right? That's where they are. It's like, come on, really? Get your shit together, man. Okay, we understand that person is sleeping on a sidewalk because they have a heroin addict. They have a heroin problem. People that aren't on the street because, sugar addiction doesn't land you on the street, right? It's very affordable. It's almost free. You eat enough of it, you'll lose your teeth. Okay. So, but the bottom line is that you don't end up on the street. Not one person is like, ah, man, I got the monkey on my back. I got a 4 dozen of donut a day habit, right?
Now, if you end up with a bunch of white powder all over your face, there may be some stigma attached to that.
Yeah, you have a beignet problem. So, but yeah, you see where I am, right? It's like, it's the addiction that we get to get away with, but we're not getting away with it because as a nation, we're suffering. Our insurance keeps going up. And look, we could get all the Mangionis in the world to shoot all of the guys in insurance and do all the stuff. But we have a real problem. The insurance companies know we have a problem, right? They don't want to pay out on stuff because they'll go broke because everyone is sick now. And no matter what they're charging for insurance, everyone is sick. They don't want to pay out. And I get it. They're getting richer and richer, and these fat cats with their bottom lines and all that. But they see the writing on the wall. Things are getting more and more expensive. More and more people are sick, and they're going to start paying for less and less stuff.
This is a much longer conversation, but the entire concept of the way that health insurance works in the US is mind-boggling to me. Could you imagine how expensive your car insurance would be, Vinny, if they had to pay for your oil changes and your tire rotations
Right.
and your tires and your timing belt and
Right.
everything else that's associated? That is how we treat insurance when it comes to health, right?
Right.
They have to cover the doctor's visit. They have to cover the maintenance stuff. They have to cover all of this stuff. And it's because we don't have a healthcare system, we have a sick care system,
Right.
right? We're not treating the root cause. The only thing the health insurance company can do is treat things as they pop up, right? And the best solution to that is to throw another pill in your mouth or to stab you with Wegovy as you're
Yeah.
walking down the street, because it will make their bottom line look a little
But
nicer.
I think that they know that they're putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg, right? They know that they have a problem. We just don't know a way out.
Yeah.
Right. And, look, folks, I have no love for insurance companies. Trust me. I've been through the medical system enough. There's no love of those people here. I'm just explaining what they're doing. Right. Just like in my first movie, I tell everyone, don't be mad at big food. Big food is doing what big food is going to do. You have to beat big food. You're playing their game. You got to stop playing their game. Stop eating their crap. Right. There's something called fish. There's something called red meat, right? There's vegetables you can eat. Don't go eat processed crap, right?
And that I think is one of the biggest tricks is people say it's really expensive to eat the right way. You know what's really expensive? Having an addiction to potato chips. Not just in the short term, because you buy 3 or 4 bags at a time, right? Vinny, what is a bag? And you are probably the worst person on the planet to ask this question to. What does a bag of chips cost in your supermarket?
I'm like a politician when they ask them how much cereal costs. Can I throw a number out? It's got to be
Yeah.
something cheaper than I think. Like we're talking like a bag of like Lay's potato chips,
Lay's, yeah.
like a little bag or a family bag.
The bag that a normal American would buy.
So not
So
the
not
family bag.
the all right. So right here, 13 ounces,
Okay, so
5.54
that's how
at
much it
Walmart.
costs.
Yeah.
You know what number I was going to come up with?
What?
I'm not in touch, bro. I was gonna go, I don't know, $1.69 because to me that's
That
what.
that's not a bad guess, right? You'd think it would be cheaper than it is, and you can get. I think the smaller, like 8-ounce bags, are probably going to be closer to that. But then you get into the healthy chips. Like, have you seen Siete chips and the whole family thing there? Those are like $7 a bag,
Oh, okay.
right?
So did I tell you or did I talk to Anna about this? Serena's been wearing a CGM, so she's been trying different things with the CGM, and she got the Siete chips, right? Because they're supposed to be healthier for you and lower in carbs and all the stuff.
Which, by the way, it's impossible not to eat the entire bag of those, so it's not worth even looking at to begin with. But anyway, continue.
You want to know what her blood sugar went to after eating a portion of those?
All of it.
Her blood sugar went to 200.
Sounds about right.
And this is supposed to be like the healthy. She was like, "Oh my God, my blood sugar, like the beeper went off." She was like, "It hit 200." It's like, so ding, 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 ding. I mean, that, I was like, "Honey," she goes, "Yeah, the reason I have this thing on is to try different things just to see, because everyone says it's at Serena. I get it. You don't listen to me because we're married. You're genetically opposed to whatever I tell you is the truth. Now you know." And so many, I'm just using Siete chips, but there's been so many things where she was like, "Oh my God, you're right. This has done it. That's done it." Right.
So wait, you're saying she actually ate a serving size of these, right?
I don't know how much she ate. Knowing Serena, she ate a bunch,
But Vinny, they're grain free.
but they're made with cassava or something, right?
Yeah, it's cassava.
Yeah. So, which is the same. It's the same. It's the same carbohydrate. Your liver doesn't see it any differently. Serena's liver certainly didn't see it any differently.
Yeah, and that
Right?
is just so you're aware, that is the same price as 13 ounces of Lay's for a 5-ounce bag,
Mm-hmm.
I think it says. Um, and they claim that there are 5 servings in that bag, right? 19 grams of carbohydrates,
Wow.
and it's cassava and coconut flour, chia seed, sea salt, avocado oil,
Yeah.
right? So if you're reading the back of that, it's not the worst thing you can eat by far,
Yeah.
but also, one, no one eats 1 ounce of Siete chips because it's like 7 chips, right? I've never opened a bag of those and not finished it. That was one of the things my mom had in the cupboard when I went home because she knows that in the past I've eaten them as my life into living. And I avoided it like the plague because I knew I would eat 5 ounces, which is the entire bag, right? But thinking about that, I saw the local grocery flyer for her this
Mm-hmm.
week. How much was 80/20 ground beef, Vinny? This is one you might know.
Oh yeah, I can get 80/20 ground beef. We usually get that for no more than $5 for a pound. Usually on sale, 3.90 something
Yeah,
pound.
$2.99 at Giant this week.
Yeah.
As long as you have their card, right?
Right.
80/20, you just have to scan your loyalty card. Would you rather have 13 ounces of something that makes you feel like absolute crap for twice the price, or 16 ounces of something that's going to make you feel really good when you're done?
Well, look, that's one of the things I yell about all the time. Is like people go, I want meat. I can't afford it. High pollutant meat. You just did a thing where the meat was cheaper than the chips.
You get 3 ounces more for half the price.
Yeah.
Okay, not quite. Let's not exaggerate. What were the Lays? 5.49, 5.44,
Yeah.
which
Look,
is
Chris,
40.
it
Okay.
makes no sense. It just makes no sense. Right. Look, I tried Siete chips one time. I was in the desert. It was the Javelina 100. It was a 100-mile foot race in the middle of the desert. So everyone's sleeping out there in tents and everything else. And someone had these chips. It's like 2 in the morning, and I'm bored out of my mind because I'm waiting for a crew. I'm crewing for someone that's coming around. And I was like, yeah, let me try a handful of those. And I crunched them and I went, oh, come on. It's like, no, Vin, they're low carb. It's like, no, they're not. They can't be. There's no way that this is a carbohydrate. No, it's not made with any grains. I don't care. Right. And here's my wife 3 or 4 years later trying them and spiking her blood sugar. It's nuts.
But just for the record, they're higher carb than Lay's,
Yeah.
right? There's 3, each of them is roughly an ounce for a serving size. Lay's are 15 grams of carbs. Now, uh, the oil and all of the other things that go into that, right? But
Yeah. We're not saying
it's
Lay's is any good, folks. So don't.
it's it's not it's not a better option, right? Are they more delicious? Yeah. Like I would eat those over a bag of Lay's because it's not going to make me feel quite as bad, but it is going to spike my blood sugar to 200.
Right.
So what's the point, right? On a calorie for calorie basis, you can get twice as many calories from ground beef for the same price. So please stop pretending that it's expensive to eat this way. Yeah, if you're eating ribeye every day, it can get expensive.
Oh, look, I can't afford ribeye. We're empty nesters. We have ribeye like once a week. We're not eating ribeye every day. We eat whatever's on special. And by the way, there's always great sausage you can get. There's always great pork. There's just so many different things: fish, chicken, eggs. It's just all there, folks. We're going to make that the final word. Go check out purecoffeeclub.com. We have the house. And some people just buy the house blend over and over and over again. We have athletic. It's for you athletes. It's got a higher caffeine content than the regular stuff. So you can go check out the athletic blend. Turns out, Chris, is that still our number one seller? I made it just,
The Athletic,
yeah, it's up there, right? Like one or two
it's neck and neck with the honey.
with the honey. And which brings up the honey process. I mean, honey process is, oh my God, good, right? It was the first coffee I came up with for the company. It was the first one. And I know why you're laughing.
But you know about my phone call yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's double French, where it's the oiliest, darkest French roast you will ever try. And once again, we're back with the Explorer series. So go check out everything at purecoffeeclub.com. Rate and review this podcast. It's how other people find us. If you're going to go shopping on Amazon, before you go to Amazon, go to VinnieTortorich.com. Click through the banner. It puts a little coal on the fire, gets our train down the track. I promise that next week I'll be done with this cold, man. It's lingering on way longer than I wanted to, but I'm sure if I get the proper amount of Cajun food in me, I will be able to kick this. So we shall see. On behalf of Chris Shaffer, my name is Vinnie Tortorich. Put life into living.